TIL professors of universities during the Vietnam War inflated students' grades in order to help them avoid the draft. Knew a few people who stayed in school for masters/PhDs to avoid the draft. We're not homosexuals, but we are willing to learn. Yeah, do they have a special school for that? Professors in my university allowed us to move to a different seat in the auditorium to avoid draft. Well, except for Delta House. Dean Wormer, you're out. Finished at Faber. Expelled. I want you off this campus at 9 o'clock Monday morning. And I'm sure you'll be happy to know that I have notified your local draft boards and told them that you are now all eligible for military service. /Flounder's mouth flutters /. One of my professors this semester almost failed me because my Wi-Fi was too weak to connect to Zooms, and he had an attendance clause. Had to get the department head to intervene, and I still got a C even though my actual work/exams came out to a B+. My dad has 2 Purple Hearts from Vietnam. He saw some shit. He says if he knew then what he knows now he wouldn't have volunteered to serve. My dad thought he was doing the patriotic thing. I don't begrudge anyone for dodging the Vietnam draft. But don't be a war hawk if you never wore your country's uniform. My college changed the catalog so bad grades weren't an expulsion offense but merely made you subject to separation, so the dean had to take an affirmative action to suspend you. My father was a professor during the Vietnam War in a regional campus of a state college, and he said that there was a general understanding that giving an F could literally mean the student's death, and that many professors just refused to give failing grades. I had a constitutional law professor that would tell his students this just before he passed out our grades. Keep in mind that if you got an A, it's not the same as an A from before. We had to inflate the grades to keep people from being drafted. So you didn't really make an A. I was in his class in like 2005. Smart professor, but he didn't go easy on you. I can think of 2 problems that likely caused. You got drafted if you had bad grades. What the fuck? I love that professors did this. I wish no one had gone to Vietnam, not starting anything political, just my feelings. My mother's oldest brother was in seminary at the time and was drafted. When he was told that he did not have to go, he chose to anyway, feeling like it was his duty. He stepped on a landmine. It changed their family in so many horrible ways. Losing him destroyed everyone in various ways. Sorry. Ramble. I do that too often. Edited to add that I also agree with all comments below. Rushing at the moment, but I think my original comment was one of just pure emotional reaction. Professors today commemorate this by continuing to inflate students' grade. Source: I am an idiot with a master's degree. If they did get drafted, the Canadian government offered no questions asked immigration. That explains some of the incompetency in senior staff. My grandpa passed his senior architectural design classes solely cause the professor knew if he failed he wouldn't get his job at GE and would be drafted. It is rather worrying that this was even a thing. Since when does getting bad grades mean your life is worth less? During that period there were many colleges that specialized in having low academic standards. They admitted low-performing high school graduates and kept them 4 years to avoid the draft. One of my neighbors in Pennsylvania in 1968 had a straight C high school average but found a college in Nebraska that would take him. He didn't learn much but he managed to avoid the draft. Those not old enough to remember the heartache and pain of Vietnam and the draft can't really appreciate this. Those not fortunate enough to go to college dreaded the postman, and finding an excuse to avoid being sent to the pointless war was on everyone's mind. I still remember being a young boy crying as I heard the officers tell my parents my brother wasn't coming home. He was in country for all of 6 months before he met his maker. I even still run into his former fiancée every now and again. The ghosts of Nam haven't really ever gone away for some people. And then never deflated them. It used to be a C was the most common grade. Now it's A, by far. https://twitter.com/Anakachi/status/1265030206944/photo/1. My high school history teacher who was a Vietnam vet said it was a common tactic for kids to use in failing classes, telling the professor if they failed their class they'd flunk out of school and get drafted. Gotta say, that's a powerful bargaining chip for a lazy student. I wonder how many went on to become politicians. My dad flunked out or something out one term and had to do some running around and promise he'd go back and finish so he could avoid the draft. He also tried moving to New Zealand but they didn't want him. Australia was going to pay for him to come there and herd sheep though. I love you for using the apostrophe correctly in students. I think it's far more fascinating that GPAs are through the roof over the past 10 years. Kind of in line with how tuition has risen. I wonder if the two are connected. Higher GPAs equals more satisfied customers, students, equals willing to pay more for tuition. Or you could do what Tommy Chong did and move to Canada for a while. They knew if they flunked a young man with a low draft number out of university, he'd be sent to Vietnam. Is this why so many boomers seem uneducated but in valuable positions? LOL. Sounds like the start of the grades don't mean anything for the generation. Interesting. My friend's dad got drafted. He went to training and kept up his early morning Tai Chi practice. Apparently this made them think he was weird and possibly gay. He played into the suspicions and got released. Hightailed it to Canada and never looked back. So that's why we have a bunch of incompetent shitweasels running the country. Now those D and F grade draft dodgers are running this country into the ground. Brilliant. That would be white students. I think that's largely a myth. I became eligible for the draft when I flunked out of college. Maybe there were a few cases here and there, but none that I know of. Sue. What I'm hearing is there's a bunch of boomers out there that aren't as smart as they think they are. Now those people are in charge of everything. Maybe that's why so many people in positions of power think they're smarter than they are. Doesn't this just mean that some other kid had a greater chance of being drafted as these kids were no longer eligible? War, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. I know a guy that claimed to have bone spurs to avoid the draft. This explains so much. It's anecdotal at best, but my grandfather told me about professors passing people to help keep them away from war, while others out of a sense of patriotic duty, failed students for arbitrary reasons. He also talked about how there were so many students, they filled the aisles during lecture. CMV, grade inflation has no negative effects on any aspect of American society. That kind of explains a few things. It would appear that those same dumbass that should have flunked out of college are now running our country. Much better that the poors and the blacks died in the jungle instead. As someone currently in the military, anyone that didn't avoid the draft was either brainwashed, desperate, stupid, or didn't care about dying/killing innocents. Vietnam was also bad. Stay in school kids. Class warfare, delicious. I still can't fathom that the US actually issued a draft for that bullshit war, a fight that wasn't even defending their own nation. Absolutely insane. Well, that explains a lot about current academia. So, the current leftist professionate is founded in cheating, for a good cause. Makes sense of a lot of things. Does that explain the ineptitude in many current professors? I wonder if any profs gave lower grades to students they didn't like. Stephen King references this in *Hearts in Atlantis. *. Awesome collection of stories, BTW.